Ultimates are the cornerstone of competitive Overwatch gameplay. They're the most effective way to end teamfights and have the most singular overall impact in every single game. That being said, for the majority of players, ultimates often get thrown away and yield no impact or results. That's why in this video, we're going to be going over the first half of DPS characters and break down the best tips and tricks of all the HITSCAN DPS ultimates. That way you could have more impact with each and every ultimate, break through your thresholds, and push your limits again and again. Let's just jump right into it, shall we? Kicking it off with our first hero, Ashe, with her signature ultimate, Bob. Now, Bob is one of the most unique abilities in the entire game of Overwatch. For one, he's more than an ability, he's a friend. All joking aside, unlike any other deployable, Bob is treated as an actual person. This means that he can go through teleporters, contest objectives, or even cap a point. This is one of Bob's biggest strengths, but also his biggest weakness as well. Bob can get punished in similar ways a regular person can. Bob can get hooked off maps, slept by Ana, or shielded off and bursted down. In order to get the most amount of impact out of Bob, here are some things you need to think about. What can shut down by Bob? You really need to keep track about things like Sleep Dart in particular. Throwing Bob into the enemy team when they have all these cooldowns can mean your Bob can get shut down super easily. This ensures nearly zero value out of Bob. This can be more than just something like Sleep Dart. Even a full Reinhardt shield or simply being able to move out of line of sight can make it so Bob gets no impact. Now you might be thinking, every single time I use Bob, it gets shut down no matter what. Well, that leads us into our next point. Can you use the distraction and initiation of Bob to generate value? Bob is a great asset in the mid fight. You could use Bob's initiation to distract enemies and secure easy picks with his CC that throws them up in the air. On top of that, you can use Bob and take a flank angle in order to create that extra pressure. Essentially, just the need to waste cooldowns, resources, and attention on Bob can generate value in itself. So don't neglect that specific aspect. If you can find ways to get value out of every single initiation and distraction created by Bob, then you'll always find value out of Bob with every single ultimate. Now, the last thing that you need to think about is, will Bob be able to clean up? This is using Bob in the mid to late fight, and this is a combination of pressure plus weakness. If the enemy team is extremely weak, a broken barrier, low abilities, or low overall health, sometimes Bob can be that added pressure to destroy the enemy team. Think about this. If you throw Bob through the enemy team, he can automatically create that crossfire. If the enemy team turn to focus Bob, you can easily shoot them in the back. And if the enemy team ignore Bob and focus you, Bob gets to get free value in their backline. Plays like this only work when your team is pushing in pressure, plus you identify weaknesses in the enemy team. So make sure you identify that weakness first before you commit Bob, instead of just committing Bob to a full 6 enemy teams that are at full health so they can easily shut him down. Now moving on to our next character, Bastion, and his ultimate, Tank. Now Tank is an interesting ability that many Bastions don't utilize to the full potential. For one, it offers high burst damage and mobility. Often a Bastion can become vulnerable in tank form, and a safe Bastion set up in a bunker may not want to use it at all. Sometimes Bastions go to tank form and try to aggressively chase kills, but get punished because they leave the confines of their safety. You need to identify when going into tank form is actually going to get you more value, but I'll break down some of those examples here. Now before we get to that, you need to understand that while Bastion is primarily a hitscan character, his ultimate is a projectile with high burst and splash but low rate of fire. This means adjusting can be difficult, and many who whip out Bastion per situations and never play Bastion consistently or practice his ultimate will have a lot of trouble getting immense value out of hitting direct with Bastion's tank. An important rule of thumb is don't whip out this ability against an enemy's main tank shield. While it does have high burst damage, the actual damage is still only 205 per direct shot and won't be able to break a shield that fast. In that case, using regular sentry mode and breaking your shield first and then activating tank mode after the shield is instantly broken can be an effective strategy. Now lastly, before we go, don't forget the mobility that Tank provides. Rocket jumping allows Bastion to yoink the high ground and chase pursuers. Bastion only takes marginal self damage, so this is usually worth the positional advantage and the mobility it provides. Now moving on to our next hero, McCree, with his ultimate, High Noon. High Noon is an ultimate that has the potential to have incredibly high value with complete team wipes. That being said, it often requires McCree to leave himself hyper vulnerable and has an insanely jaded risk-reward aspect where more often than not, you'll end up dead. There are a few ways to try and secure impact while keeping the risk relatively low. Firstly, try to use it behind a shield during the enemy's engage. They will be pushing in rapidly, and a High Noon can throw them off guard. Hiding behind a shield means you can't be CC'd or killed, and if you hold it long enough, you can even burst through enemy shields and kill the enemies behind it. Secondly, try to use it to secure a kill or two, and use it as a surprise factor. You can flank High Noon when the enemy is heavily distracted. The trick here is to not get overly greedy with High Noon. Getting a kill or two for essentially free is enough to win a team fight. A greedy play the game thirsty McCree may miss his opportunity to to get any kills at all and will just end up shut down. Now lastly, the most reliable guaranteed value at a high noon is to simply animation cancel it for a reload. This can let you finish off that final kill when you exhausted all your ammo and your roll. Unlike the other uses of high noon, it has almost zero risk, but the reward is not that high with only a full clip of ammo. That being said, sometimes that's enough to get the job done and it will never fail you and the risk is almost non-existent. Now moving on to the next character on our list, Reaper with his ultimate Death Blossom. Now Death Blossom is an ultimate that has captured the spotlight in many of our ranked games recently. The fact of the matter is, Death Blossom usually gets a gigantic 5 or 6k, or it gets stopped within the first couple seconds of the ultimate and gets next to no value. When using Death Blossom, you need to keep track of important things that can CC you out of an ultimate. Sleep Dart, McCree Flash, Shield Bash. If possible, try to keep track of these abilities and only commit when these are on cooldown. That being said, because of the speed at which Death Blossom kills, if you see an opportunity to use it by surprise, it can lethal enemies before they get the chance to stun you out of it. A consistent play pattern is to use Pressure plus Wraith to bait out CC and then commit ultimate after the enemy team is weak and your abilities are all used up. Now moving on to our next character on our list, Soldier with his ultimate Tactical Visor. Now Tac Visor is a low powered ultimate that can only get value when used in specific situations. While Visor gives Soldier near aimbot, he can easily get zoned away or blocked off with a shield. The high ground is your friend when using Visor, as it gives you more clear vision of the battlefield. Animation canceling a heal station into Visor activation can give you a heal sustain from, so it's harder to burst you down when using Tac. Also, keep in mind, while consistent movement can make our own shots easier to hit on Soldier, you can go wild with movement during Tactical Visor because it will have zero effect on your aimbot Visor. That means if a Widowmaker is actively shooting you, don't be afraid to left-right crouch spam like crazy. The best use for Visor, in my opinion, to get consistent value is to use it in response to an enemy ultimate or engage. You can burst down Mercy Valk or make it useless. Pharah can boost up and get mowed down easily with Visor. Lastly, much like the McCree example, try not to get overly greedy. Securing a single duel with Visor can allow you to rain on the enemy uncontested from above. You know how else you could rain uncontested from above onto the enemy team every single time? Learning from the best at GameLeap.com. GameLeap.com has the best high quality guides handcrafted by GM players to ensure you get the best quality advice anywhere. Every single character on the list has in-depth guides and VOD reviews to help you maximize your effectiveness on that hero as quickly as possible. You don't have to take my word for it. GameLeap.com offers a 10-day money-back guarantee, so come check us out risk-free in the links here. Now moving on to our next hero, it's Sombra with her ultimate EMP. Now EMP is one of the most powerful single ultimates in the entire game. A full team EMP usually ends in an easily won team fight. That being said, EMP still needs a certain level of coordination and it can be hard to execute. Firstly, let's run down EMP mechanics. If you want to EMP over the enemy, you need to do the following. Throw your translocator above them, unstealth, teleport, and then EMP. You can animation cancel your unstealth with teleport so that you don't unstealth after you teleport and have a slight delay. If you have that unstealth animation, enemies can react to it with a McCree Flashbang or a Zen Trance, which can make it so you get no value. Also, think about teammates' positioning and how they can follow up. Don't EMP when your team is nowhere close, and always tell your team if you're looking to EMP and who gets caught by the EMP. Calling targets is the best thing to do on Sombra. Sombra is a hyper synergistic character, and if you're unwilling to call, you probably shouldn't be playing the hero at all. Lastly, understand the counter EMP. You can shut down enemy engagements by ability-based heroes like Genji and Doom. You can also completely screw over ultimate combos like Nanoblade or even Grab Dragon. When you shut down ultimates by the enemy and win the fight anyways, it can be worth double value. Now moving on to the next hero on our list, we have Tracer with her ultimate Pulse Bomb. Now Pulse is probably the easiest ultimate to build in the DPS category, and its impact when used correctly can still be immense. Pulse is not an easy ability to land, and even the best DPS players often whiff it. If you can hit even a fraction of your pulse bombs, you can win tons a game off that value alone. Evaluating what to stick is a big aspect of pulse bombs in general. While sticking a tank can be easy, you have to make sure that you actively burst through their health pool before they get healed up, or it can be worth no value. Sticking enemy squishy can be difficult, but it almost always ends up in guaranteed value with low enemy counterplay. Practicing pulse bombs in a training room scenario can help you practice 100 to 1,000 pulse bombs in the same time frame it would take you to practice 10 to 30 in ranked. Lastly, learning blink distances and blinking to the left, right, or 180 degrees behind the enemy can help you hit more pulse bombs consistently. If the enemy is retreating, going behind them can allow you to hit an easy pulse bomb. If the enemy team is trying to dodge you left or right, blinking to the sides of them can allow you to set up for an easy pulse bomb, because while they were facing you directly, they're moving to the left and right. If you teleport to the left or right side of them, their left right becomes straight forward and back, making it so it's a straight line pulse bomb. Now moving on to the last but certainly not least character on our list, Widowmaker with her ultimate Infrared Sight. Infrared Sight is one of the strongest team informational abilities in the entire game. Giving allies the knowledge of enemy positions and health bars can help them gauge aggression level appropriately and create the best plan of action. Even more importantly than that, Widow herself benefits greatly from walls. Being a one-shot character, lining pre-fire headshot corners means the enemy team is greatly fearful of their own positioning and pursuing the Widow at all. In ranked, sometimes getting a pick from a certain location and then immediately activating infrared can be a way to set up follow-ups, avoid getting punished, and emit a giant amount of pressure on the enemy that comes with a Widow hitting a headshot, and now she has walls. This puts fear in the enemy team to make them play much more passively, and that pressure aspect of Widow cannot be understated. You know what else can't be understated? How valuable GameLeap.com is. I already talked about all the in-depth content you'll get, and I don't need to tell you again. Just do yourself a favor and go check it out, because for those of you who have watched this video to the end, I know how desperately you want to improve with the game, and GameLeap can help you again and again. Anyways, that's all I have to say about that, and I hope to see you there. Anyways, that's all I have for you today. This is the best tips for every single HITSCAN DPS in the game. The next follow-up video is going to be the second half of all the DPS characters, the projectile characters in the game. So if you want to get tips and tricks on how to master Dumo, Hanzo, or Faro, make sure you come and check it out. Any questions, please leave them in the comments down below. I'm Coach Mills, and until next time.